The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Rise! Get yourselves together! Rise! Stand up and live your life! Rise! Get yourselves together! Rise! Hands up high!
Welcome to the Rise Above Show. I am Joe Perroni.
And I'm Heidi Mancini.
And as you can see, we have a very special guest who's not sitting down, or we have a place for her to sit, and she wants to jump off the table.
She says, I'm leaving this gig.
So this is Lola the Pug getting close to the... trying to show off.
I'm looking at John. I have to look at my...
And you can see Lola at the end of the show playing the drums, too. So she's our special guest for today.
Our special guest for the day.
Yeah. She doesn't want to settle down today either. Hey, Lola.
I'm so excited. I don't know why I'm here. Why am I here? I was home taking a nap.
Perfect. Sit down on my notes. We can talk a little.
She likes your notes.
Do we have any
we just want to take a minute to thank Jay Young from City Athletic for sponsoring our show, Rise Above. And also Meal Prep Vegas, Marie, for also sponsoring our show. She is cooking Joe's fish meals right now, and she did.
And I love it.
And they're delicious. She did mine also, and we really appreciate everything that she does for us. So if you're looking for somebody to cook you some healthy meals, save some time, she's the girl to call.
Perfect. Okay. So today is a kind of a special day. I mean, it's not like I'm going to celebrate this or anything, but I thought it would be a good time to I thought it would be a good time to talk about grief. And I've been looking at a lot of stuff on YouTube about grief and a lot of therapy stuff on how to recover from grief. And I got to tell you, most of it's... What are you doing? Most of it's...
She's not having it. She goes, we're not having no grief, right?
Yeah. Well, okay, so let me just start with this.
Get over here.
Most of the stuff I see on grief, first of all, nobody can tell you what grief is. That's number one. It's very...
Good girl.
It's very personal to all of us, and how you grieve is the way you grieve. And so I'm not here to tell you how to do that. I'm here to kind of today tell you about one person's story and how it connects with Heidi and Lola, of course. So she's also a special guest for a reason today. Let me start with this. If you want to know if someone might be a good partner in your life, one way to do it is to ask them to come and help you pick out a dog. And so 9 years ago, that's what I did. I called Heidi during the day. I knew she was off that day, right? I think it was a Monday. And I had her come down, and we were going to look at Lola, who I wanted to buy, of course. And so give a part of the story. So you get the phone call.
So I got the phone call, and I was sitting at the table, and I said, I'm off. I don't have any makeup on or nothing. What do you want me to do? And he says, come down to the pet store. He said, just come down. So I said, okay. So I went down there, and I walk in, and here's little Lola running around, tiny. She was like this big.
Fit in the palm of my hand.
She was tiny. About the size of her head was her whole body.
Yeah, she could fit in the coffee cup, too, right?
Yeah.
Well,
well, I had a coffee cup. It was a big mug, and she would sit next to it on the table. And she was so cute. And he says, what do you think? And I go, oh, she's cute. And she was running all over the place, crazy as hell. And I was like, you need some crazy in your life, Joe, because she was. But you remember you said you didn't want to get a girl. You were set on getting another boy.
I was looking for a boy.
But they only had the girl. So he ended up having to get Lola because she was the girl. But she has been a spice ever since.
Yeah, she's perfect. And her birthday is also June 4th, which
the day
is
of your
my
birthday. Yeah.
So the big thing is talking about grief. It's how you want to define it. I don't really like the word grief. I don't think, in my opinion, there's losses, and you can feel a loss, and you'll feel a loss forever. But typically, I don't like to think about grief as this horrible, horrible thing. Because if you have grief, it means that you've loved something. So in terms of the way the world works, I am grateful for my grief. So I don't feel that it's bad. So I was thinking about how to do today's show because I don't want to offend anybody and I don't want to come across as callous. But then again, I'm here to tell people how I feel about it, and I'm not telling you what to do or how to think. So I will just have one opinion. And one of the things is that I would like to celebrate today is like 10 years ago today, it was May 25th, 2007, and it's 2:15. At 5 o'clock, I was married at the time, and I had pulled the plug, so to speak, and I watched my wife die. Exactly a little bit before that. They did the time of death at 5 o'clock on that. It was a Friday. That's where I was 10 years ago today. And I am not going to sit around and be totally sad. Not that it would be disrespectful or respectful to you. That's not the case at all. That's not even part of my thought process. Part of my thought process is look at all the good things that have come into my life since then. Like, this is amazing. I mean, Heidi's here. But also, one of the ways that I kind of brought Heidi into my life was to ask her if she would like to look at a dog with me. Because to me, if you're a nurturing human being, you're going to like that idea. So I was able to see how Heidi played with Lola, how I gave her to you sometimes over your house when you had time so you could play.
She used to spend half of the time, all the dogs, she used to come over. And then there was Sam, Chloe, and I used to have the 5 dogs at my house usually from Sunday through Wednesday, and then Wednesday night or Thursday I would take them back and they would spend the weekend with you. But Sundays when we would go for coffee, they would usually come back, but they would spend half the week at my place, half the week at Joe's place.
And I remember that as it's a long time ago now, 9 years, but I remember it as such a nice thing because I was already breaking out of that. I had a loss and I was recovering. And Lola's kind of that sign to say, okay, I'm ready to start being me and take care of things and to see who would be worthy to be in my life in that sense. And it was really good. It was fun. You know, Lola was part of it. She was like our little baby. And I think your friend said that too, because they were like, well, why would somebody ask me to go check out the dog?
Well, Jonathan, my friend Jonathan, you know, it was him. I'm going to say it was him because we were training one day and he goes, just so you know, he's getting that dog because of you, because he wants to get you attached to the dog. I'm like, Jonathan, I go, first of all,
nurturing qualities.
I go, that's a little bit far-fetched, I said, for a guy to go to that extreme. He goes, okay. He goes, don't listen to me. He goes, I don't know what I'm talking about. He's my gay friend. I love him. He's like my favorite friend in the world, but he's a man. And I said, okay, if that's what you say. So I just didn't even, but it was funny because she did bring us together because we cared about her. You know, we took care of her. And then Ava had her teeth extraction when she had before her braces. And you got her right in the time. I think she had that done in September or October that year. And so she was perfect because Ava held on to her the whole time she was, you know, recovering from that extraction. And Ava remembers that. She brings that up still. She'll say, yeah, I remember when Joe brought Lola over and she stayed with me when I had my teeth pulled. So, you know, she brought us together.
Yeah, so it's a very important thing to me. That's why I wanted her here today, and John was nice enough to go along with this. And it's let's put it this way. Life will move forward whether you want it to or not. And if you want to live in the past, you want to be sad, you want to be angry, you want to be bitter, you want to curse at the world for things that happen that you have no control over, you can do that. And I would never tell you not to do that. Some people derive power from it. Some people think that that's their meaning. You know, I've had people come to me a long time ago now, it'd be 10 years, and they'd say, you know, Joe, you can pull that I'm a widower card now for the rest of your life. Like, girls will always feel bad for you. Girls will always want to nurture you because you've been through such a tragedy. And I'm like, yeah, that's really great, but it's like I said before, I don't think you can define, you know, I don't think there's a definition of grief, and I'll tell you why, because I'm not looking up that definition, because I don't care. As callous as it might sound, I'm the one who defines grief. I will define it for me, and I did that a long time ago. And the point that I would have is that, like I said, it really comes down to one of the things my father said a long time ago. If you want to play, you have to pay. And all bills become due and payable. Well, what does that mean? Well, it can mean a lot of things, but to me, in terms of loss or grief, it means if you want to play, you have to pay. Listen, not everybody finds good things in their life. Not everybody's happy. Not everybody finds love. If you do, you are one lucky human being. So in order to have it, that's the play. It's like, thank you. You know, I mean, you have a lot to do with it in terms of what you bring into your life. But let's be honest, you know, it's the universe has a lot to do with it too. A lot of it's luck of who crosses your path.
Well, one of my experiences with it, my changing moment with death was when my dad died. So, and it was funny because I remember feeling I had nowhere to go. I was like, now what am I going to do? I really have to look at my life and make some decisions. And then, you know, of course we moved out here, and I remember if my dad hadn't passed away, I wouldn't be here. I would have never met you. My life would not be what it is now, and I would have not probably. I went through my divorce here, but I remember driving into Vegas, and there, when you come in off of Russell,
Right.
it's there. It's one way you can come in. And all the casinos are there, and the big buildings. And I remember I had Ava in the car and my Sophie, my lab at the time, and I just remember I'm driving my car, and I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna. My life is never gonna be the same. And I had no idea how much in the last 10 years my life would change for the best. And it took, you know.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. It's all right to feel sad.
Yeah, it took
It's
my dad
okay.
dying, which, you know, I miss him all the time, but not where like today I'm crying. I don't know why I'm sentimental today about it, but most days it's a lot better. My dad's been gone now. It's about 18. How old's Ava? She's 22. He's been gone about 18 years. So, you know, I wish he was around now, but he's not. But my life changed
He
a lot.
actually is.
And that was, for me, death for me, it was a good thing. You know, it was a bad thing because I had to say so long to, you know, a life, you know, the life I was used to. And if it wasn't for him, because I kept saying I'm not going anywhere as long as my dad's alive. I was the only one back east, and I had a really tight relationship with my dad. And I said to my, you know, ex-husband at that time, I said, you can go. You want to move, you go wherever you need to go, but I am not leaving my dad. And ironically, he ended up getting sick and passing away at 64, which is very young. I thought my dad would be around till he was at least his 80s to enjoy my daughter and see how my life has turned out. I mean, but again, if he would have lived to 80, who knows? I might still be living in Lockport and living, being with the
probably what
same
would
person,
happen.
my daughter, you know, who knows? But it was a good thing for me. And
Well, you made it a good thing too, I think. It's
well, and
like-
even with you, when I started dating you, I remember I used to make chicken for you before we started dating, because I was like, God, he's getting so skinny, he needs to eat. And
true.
Jonathan goes, yeah, he's not eating probably. He's a typical bachelor now. And I said, so I used to bring you chicken, remember?
Yeah, I do.
And so that was, you know, my way in there, I guess. But I don't know. It's just funny how things work. I forgot where my train of thought was going with that.
Oh,
but
I got it. So let me go back, because I definitely wanted to talk about my dad today, because he was one of the... He said that when I was a kid, and I always remembered it. You know, you want to play, you have to pay. So the playing is the dating. It's the having a good time. It's having sex. It's having the relationship. All these things that you're not entitled to, by the way. All these things you need to be, or at least I'll speak for myself, I'm incredibly grateful for all the really good people that have been in my life. But I have no control over certain things, and so people will come and go throughout your life. When you know you're dealing with a living being, you have to understand that there's only one or two choices that are going to happen. And either they're going to leave you for a reason, or you can leave them, or they're going to die. So that's kind of what happens. My cousin, Justin, you know, he said something that was really, really smart a couple of years ago. And you know, people talk about the 50% of marriages that end in divorce. And that could be grief, obviously. But nobody wants to talk about the other 50% of the marriages. They end in death. So either way, there's going to be grief or a loss that's going to be there. And when you're dealing with living things, you have to understand this. So if you want to play the game, if you want to feel love, if you want to feel connection, you want to feel cared about, you want to have somebody that goes through and walks through life with you, you're going to have to understand that at some point you are going to have to pay. And pay means either you will die or they will die. And you will have to deal with that. Now, this is speaking strictly for me. If you're the type of person that can't handle grief or loss, and you think that you should get the playing part up front, but you never want to pay, well then do yourself a favor and don't be in a relationship. That's what I would say, because then you're not emotionally equipped to be in a relationship. It's like I'm looking at, let's say Lola right now. I love this girl. Not only is she a great dog, but she represents so much to me about how she connected me and Heidi together. It was a part where I was really starting to open up. And actually, with Ava being very young, it allowed me to have some type of influence over a child again, because I also lost my kids within a month of my wife dying. And so she means so much to me. But what happens here is I know that most likely, because as you can see, she's kind of old now, she's not going to be with me forever, and I'm going to have to deal with that. And I will cry and I will be sad. For sure I will. But she's given me so many years of fun and joy. Who am I to get all of that and not be willing to pay back? So it's the same thing. When somebody loses a dog, they go, I'll never get a dog again. That hurts. Well, what about all the years of love that you got? Like, how selfish can a person possibly be? I was not raised like that. To me, in the end, everything kind of equals out. So the amount of grief that you feel, or the loss that you feel, is roughly equal to the amount of love that you've shared. So to me, I try to go through life and I try to experience as much pain as humanly possible. The more pain, the better, because it equals how much connection and love that I have with the world or the people around me. So if I don't consider something a loss, it means I don't care about it. Who wants to go through life not caring about anything? So I don't look at grief as this terrible thing. I just look at it as, okay, it's the first of the month. And it just happens to be a certain month, and I have to pay back now, and it's called grief. Peter Townsend from The Who, who's my favorite of all time, of course, I've mentioned that 1,000 times on the show, he wrote a song called Drowned, and in it, he talks about, I want to drown in your love, and I think about that. Like, I think grief is love. That's the price, right? What is the price of love? It would be grief. Because love cannot last forever in its physical form. So when I feel that pain of loss, I let it sink in, and there's a part of me, as much as it hurts, I love it. It's like when my mother passed away not so long ago. Wow, like, she's not replaceable. She's my mom. She's been there before I was born. You don't replace your mother. But there's a part of me that was so happy that I've had that experience, that who would I be to tell the universe that I don't want any grief here? Because some people did not have a great mother. Right. And so because of that, I feel honored for my grief. I want incredible emotional pain over it. I don't mind it. I welcome it. I talked to somebody maybe about 6 months ago, and they're a very interesting person. I'm not going to say who they are because we didn't talk about it before. But he was mentioning to me that he looks forward to the day that a big loss in his life happens, because it's going to happen anyway. We cannot control that. But it's how you think about it. And he said it will be so transformative. And I thought, what a great word. Because it's so true. It will change you from the inside out in a great way if you let it. Even some of us who try to live with this, I try never to take anything for granted, but there's nothing like a big loss that will turn that into say, you kind of always do. There's a thing in self-help where they continue over and over again to push this positive visualization. Always think positive, never think negative. One of the things that does is it causes people not to be able to handle the negatives in their life, and they fall apart. And you could see it today. There's more alcohol and drug addiction and phone, what do you call it? iPhone addiction. Everybody's addicted that I see. No one is conscious anymore. They're not present about anything. To me, I think I want to be present all the time. I want to be able to see anybody can handle the positives of their life. That's easy. It's how you handle the negatives in your life that will make or break you as a human being. And so I like to think about worst case scenarios. I think about the negatives. Like I think about one day Lola will not be here. And I am so grateful to John right now for allowing us to be able to film this, because I can tape this little girl and I can go back over and watch it. The memory that I have will far outlast her lifespan. And one of the reasons why I'll allow that to happen is because I'm so grateful about it, and I don't take my time for granted, that I soak it all in as much as I can and I make it a part of me. This will scare some people. I usually wake up before Heidi does in the morning, and I could say almost every day, which is true, almost every day, I don't want to say every day, but almost every day I look at her when she's sleeping and I think, what would happen if she did not wake up today? And as much as somebody would think, oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
Or, that's negative. That's a terrible way to live. No, it's not.
Boo.
It's because in our culture, we're so afraid to face truth and reality. So I'm telling you, stop being addicted. Face your reality as what it is. You only have so many breaths to take in your life, and that's really the point. So when I think about her and she's sleeping, I think, well, what happens if she doesn't wake up today? I go right back to myself and go, was I a good enough man? Because I'm a big part of Heidi's life. So I think, okay, did I do my part to help her have a good life? And if I didn't the day before, I think, wow, I really need to improve today. That helps me out to be a better person. It helps me to do the things that I need to do. It helps me to a point when sometimes we're on the show and I'll say, well, I need you to look at me in the eye when I say something. I want you to hear me. I do that very specifically for a reason, because I do want to connect to that, because I might be the one who dies first. And I want you to know that whatever the situation was, this man was trying to connect at all times. There's also a reason why on a Thursday afternoon I take off from my work and I come here to make an appointment with you. And whether somebody watches the show or not, I almost couldn't care less. I enjoy the 1 hour per week on a Thursday afternoon to spend with Heidi and to get a little family time, because, and I've told her this many times, the universe has not blessed me, I guess, with the ability to have a child. It's not that I haven't had unprotected sex. I've had enough of that in my life. But none of it has yielded a child. So I've got a situation. And yeah, so it's very interesting. Let me throw in a little bit of psychology here. Freud used to say that women have penis envy, right?
Yeah.
But there was a lady named Karen Horney who said, no. Number one, if you really want to talk about it, let's talk about men. They have womb envy. And I thought, well, what's womb envy? And then I looked at it, I read her stuff, and I go, you know what? I have it.
Oops.
Womb envy is, she said, one of the reasons why men want their names on a building. It's one reason why they want to work so hard to have something. It's not just to take care of their family. It's to have a name that will outlast them. It's a legacy. And you will hear men say this all the time. You don't hear women too much talk about legacy, because the child comes from your body and you have a direct connection to that child. And you're like, yes, that's what I put out into the world. What did I put out into the world? The day that I have a heart attack and die, I'm done. There's nothing in this world that I have that I've left anything for. My DNA is nowhere. I have created no children. So womb envy. It would be, I want to create a show so people can watch.
Can watch it.
I want to create
a book
so people can read. I want to help people all the time so they can go back into their lives and make it better and go, 5 years ago, I didn't listen to one thing this guy said because I didn't understand a thing, but he planted a seed and then I got better. What was his name again? Joe Perroni. Boom, I'm not dead if somebody mentions my name. So that's womb envy.
But you're not, you know what? I have to say something about my daughter.
Yeah.
You're not her real father, but you're
of course
leaving
not.
a
I love
huge-
that term because that's
no,
but
you're
that's
not her,
true.
You're
It's
not
true.
her. Okay,
it's
listen,
true.
you're not her
That's a fact.
biological father.
Absolutely.
But you are Ava's. She always says, "I wish Joe was my dad. I wish you and Joe would get married." You know, the whole thing. And I said, "That's another thing." I said, "If you want Joe to be your daddy," I said, "you could say he's your dad," because she tells her friends you're her dad. You know, that don't know any different. And she goes, "You think Joe would be mad?" And I said, "No." I said, "Joe would be perfectly fine with it." I said, "If that's, you know," she said, "There's been times that she's said it that, you know," and, you know, so even though you didn't have her, you know, with me, you have been in her life since she's what, 15, 14, 13?
Longer than that because
She's 22.
Lola's 9, so
12.
yeah, 11.
11. So you've been
something
in,
like that.
you've been, she's seen you, you've been around, you've been always been a good person around her. You've always tried to be, you know, always respectful to me around her, which she appreciates very much. You've always, you know, been respectful to her. So, you know, we talk about, you know, biological things too much in life, and I don't think it, you know, because quite honestly, she does have a biological father, which is not her fault that that's who I chose for her.
Right.
And he's not the best father figure or father for her. And so you've kind of filled, she's seen a good role model. She's seen what it's like for a man, how a man is supposed to treat a woman, how you talk to her. You've always talked to her respectfully. You've always acted interested in what she was doing at the time. And even when Ava was at her worst, I remember, you know, you saying, you know, and I told, well, Ava knows this too. She knows that you were the reason why I probably didn't kill her most of the time, was because when she would come in with her outfit, she went through the dressing like a boy stage, shaved her head. I mean, it was those years that were horrendous. And as parents, we take that as a direct, I took that as a direct hit that she is trying to fuck with me and just, I don't even know. Like, I couldn't believe the stuff that she was doing. And every time she would do something, Joe would go, you know, put his finger to his mouth, or he would be like, you know, like, just be cool, don't react. You know, the day she came in with the boys' clothes on that her dad took her for, and she goes, "How do you like my outfit?" She was taking some girl to Sadie Sue dance, and Joe must have seen in my face that I was gonna, like, probably say something, and he's in the background going, you know, and I go, "Oh, I really like your outfit, Ava. That was really nice that your dad took you." In the meantime, I'm seething, but I'm just saying, you underestimate your impact. And even now, you know, she's at the gym, she's training. I have something to do with it, I'm sure. But if I wouldn't have trained with you, I still wouldn't be in a training. So you've affected people's lives. You've affected my life from the very beginning. The first time we trained together, to hook me into, you know, liking to train, you know, and who knows? Like I said, if I would have trained with somebody else, who knows if I'd still be training. I may have quit the first week, who knows? But for some reason, we connected. I connected to you. You didn't connect to me. I connected to you, and then later on, when things came about, we ended up together for whatever that, however that was supposed to be. But
Yeah,
I
it
I
ended up
appreciate,
just the way it was supposed
you know,
to.
everything that, you know, you've been a part of, and even now saying to me, "I support you, and Ava. I support whatever." You know, that means a lot to me, because I question myself, you know, a lot as a mom. Am I doing the right thing? How long do I have to be hardcore with this child? Is it really necessary? Can I still give in a little bit? You know, so you've always helped me, you know, do the right thing, or at least have my back. Even if it isn't the right thing, it's right in your eyes, and you're not judging me and saying what an awful mom I am, or, you know, you could be a little less hard on her, or maybe harder. I don't know. But the fact that you support me, so
Well,
you
thank
have a legacy
That's-
with Ava, because she will always, you know, you will always be a part of her, you know, part of who she looks up to as a man.
Well, I try to do the right thing. Here's how I look at it, right? Like, my mom's not here anymore in the physical sense, but she raised me. So every time I make the right decision, every time I go to help somebody, my mom still lives. She exists, and she lives through me. And in doing so, my father is still with me, so he's still a big part of me too. I mean, we don't just share the same color hair, or eyes. It's about that really tough ruggedness that I think in this day and age people are not understanding what that really means. You can be emotionally stable, you can be very stoic, but also be nurturing at the same time. People that are emotionally dysregulated, up and down, up and down, up and down, which we see a lot in our society, that is now what people think is an emotionally caring human being. And I'll tell you that that's not. That's why I was struggling a little bit of what I wanted to say live today, because some people might take it as being very callous about certain things, and I take it as being incredibly connected to what the world really is.
And one other point I want to make about with Ava, with my dad, was that when my dad passed away, one of the things that really bothers me even now is that my dad was amazing. And I'm not just saying that because he was my dad. My dad he loved women, and I don't mean loved women as far as they felt that women were like these flowers that were put on the earth that should be cherished and loved and cared for. And my dad was always respectful to my, even when it got even bad with my parents, my dad tried to maintain a certain amount of coolness there when that was going on. But as a father to a daughter, I have two sisters, so I'm not the only daughter, I was the oldest. My dad was loving, he was caring, he was nurturing, he had that rough side to him when he needed to be hardcore. He was military, so when he had to be hardcore, he never laid a finger on any of us girls, ever. And he used to say, if anybody ever touches you, that type of mentality. But the thing is, my daughter never got to know my dad. She remembers my dad. She was 3 when he died, but she never got to know the man that he was, and to have that kind of a role model in her life to teach her that there are good men, there's strong men, and there's soft men. My dad had a soft side to him too. So she always says, I said, you didn't know your grandfather, not that you're like my dad. I don't want to, that sounds kind of sick, in its own little way. But I always tell my daughter, I said, you didn't know your papa, but a lot of Joe's ways, his discipline, although at times I say, God, Joe, do we have to be so regimented? My father was like that. Everything, in his, he always looking at his watch. Okay, time to eat, time to pee, time to whatever. You do the same thing.
I know I do.
So, and I go, oh my God.
What's really interesting is you talk about that, and I believe in legacy, and I believe in all this stuff. I was actually doing a lot of writing this week about this type of thing. And, sometimes you feel all alone. I'm like, you know what? I'm never alone. I've got thousands of years worth of DNA in me from other human beings. So it's like your father's DNA is in you, which is in Ava, which connects Ava to your dad. So she has that. So that it's not that she has to know him. She is him. I don't remember having a conversation with my grandfather on my mother's side. But from what I hear, he was a strong human being. Like, he was 5'8", over 200 pounds, kind of funny, like not much different than I am. He was he was in the Marines. He died of a heart attack, by the way, in Japan. I didn't know all that then, but I look at an old picture, I'm like, oh my God, like, he didn't even work out, and I look maybe a little bit bigger than him. With all the training I did, I'm like this much bigger. But yeah, it's all part of it. And again, from my dad to my grandparents, we were taught to do the right thing at the right time. And just so...
But it's the calmness that you have that Ava's not used to seeing in a man, because... just because. And she says, Joe's always so calm, Mom. He never gets mad, or he never... I said, Ava, you could probably do the most irritating thing to Joe, and he will never say anything.
You want me to tell you why? There's a secret. I wake up every day and I do what I tell people to do, not in these self-help books. By the way, these self-help people have never made anything. The only thing that they've helped is their bank account. They don't help anybody. But what happens is they do positive visualization. I do not. I do negative. So you can do the most annoying thing in the world, but it'll be never as annoying as you dying. Yeah. So I visualize you not waking up in the morning, and I think, well, what kind of a person do I need to be right now so I don't feel guilty when you die? One of the things I wrote for the show is how to prepare and confront and grow from grief, I'm going to tell you a quick little thing of how to prepare for it. Preparing for grief means, why don't you start now of living to your best ability? Like if Heidi died today, I don't feel any guilt, because I feel that I do my best 24 hours a day to make a connection with her and to do the right things at the right time. And do I make mistakes? Absolutely, but I'm a human being, but I don't go out of my way to be malicious. If you do things and you're being malicious to people and narcissistic and only caring about yourself and somebody dies, guess what? You're going to feel a lot of guilt. And you're going to have a lot more grief. Grief is also equal to the amount that you did not give your partner. So let's be honest about it. You know, let's really put it out on the table. If you live to your best ability and you're doing the best you can to be the best person you can be 24 hours a day, and the inevitable happens, well, I just said it, the inevitable. Okay, so I'm going to feel guilty over that? Listen, the universe put it in play that a living thing dies. I didn't do that. So unless I ran you over in my car by mistake, I'm not going to feel guilty about your dying. I'm just not. Like, I have no guilt over it because I continuously try to be a better man every day. And sometimes you may not appreciate it. Sometimes I don't do well. But it's not because I don't try. It's like if Lola dies today, I'm going to feel really hurt and really terrible, but I'm not going to feel guilty. She gets to eat turkey and rice and fish and every day. Like, she barely eats dog food. Like, she gets treated like an absolute queen.
When I'm dealing with Ava too, one of the things I learned through all my stuff with her moving out and all this, because one of my clients said to me the other day, she said, how in the heck did you do it when Ava moved out? She goes, my heart, she's going through a similar situation with her kids. And I said, I don't know. I just know that I started weight training and, just really spent a lot of time at the gym and focused on myself. But one of the things it did teach me with her moving out is I tried more and more with her to be quiet with my daughter and to listen. Where there was a time in my life with her that it was always, you need to do it this way. We're going to do it this way. You need to clean this up. We're going to go here. We have to do this. We have to, So this child was always, so now because I didn't have her for so long, because there's a learning thing here for me to say, she moved out and it was her lesson and she learned her lesson, whatever. She's had it hard. It was a lesson for me too, to realize that she is a person. And I missed her. I went through some grief with her. And you and I talked about, this is what I was trying to get to the grief part. It's not always about death. You and I talked about this and you said, kids leave the house. And I said, but Joe, they don't leave the house at 13. They leave the house when they go to college. They leave the house when they get married. There's a big chunk of my life right now that's gone that I was anticipating at least till she was 18, 21, somewhere in there. I'm going to have a child. I'm going to have proms. I'm going to have dances. I'm going to go through these things with my daughter. And not only did I not go through them with her because she is a lesbian and she did not want any part of the girl part of anything, which is total opposite of me. I missed out on all that as a mom with a daughter, and she moved out to go live with her father. So it was like, I went through a grief process where I was like, okay, now I have to get on in my life, and Ava's not part of the plan anymore. Because when I left her dad, I said, this is going to be my time to rebuild my life with my child. She's going to have a good life. We're going to, right?
No, I get it.
It was a lot of grief. And I said to my friend, unfortunately, you're going to go, it hurts when that happens. But I said, all I can tell you is that at some point, they're going to come back around. And for me, the grief for me was losing my child. But there was also grief that I had to look at myself and go, where was my responsibility?
Yeah.
In her leaving. I'm not taking blame for her leaving, but I could look back and say, I could have been a little less strict at times. I could have been maybe a little better
we
listener
second-guess ourselves,
and been
that's
quiet.
normal.
When I, instead of saying, no, you're not going to go over there, I could have listened to her,
but
better.
Let me help you a little bit with it. I don't think it'll help you now because it's so far past. But listen, whenever something happens in life, right? They say like, it's not what happens in your life that can make your life bad necessarily. It's how you think about it. Is she in camera? Yeah.
She says, hi, Mom, what'd you want? I just gave her a little pat on the butt.
Let's lie down. Okay, little
She's
one.
like, what do you want, Mom?
There she goes. All right. She always has her tongue sticking out.
That's how they get cool.
Yeah.
She doesn't have sweat glands, so they use their tongue.
Oh, now she's going to want to come home. Okay.
Oop. Where are you going? You coming over here now? Yeah. You come
Let
over
me
here?
tell you this about one of the thoughts that I had. Then I'll relate it to you. A lot of the grief that you had, didn't exist. I don't mean to be mean, But when you're saying, oh, I have this girl and she's going to do this and she's going to do that, none of that happens.
Because we put our stuff on our kids.
Right. So she never had that grief
Right.
because you were already putting expectations on her that she was none of that.
Right.
So you might have expectations of me being, a rich, guitar player for a heavy metal band. Well, okay, you can have that grief. I'll never be that, but I don't want to be that. You get what I'm saying? So it's about how you look at your life. Now, this might disturb some people, but I'm going to say it anyway because it could help you if you're of that mindset. And if you're not of that mindset, then put it away and don't listen to it. When I was married and she died, I walked out of the hospital alone. She did not walk out, okay? I'll get to that maybe a little bit later. Who am I to be the one to feel overly bad? I still had opportunities. She did not. And then as I thought, it wasn't that day, but a little bit further down the road, I said, what are the things that I like in my life? And one of the things I enjoy, I love connecting with people. Like at some point I was going to be able to have sex again and not have any guilt because I was free. I was able to say, okay, one day I will be able to enjoy sex with another human being and not be guilty, feel guilty because I was married, right? So that's a positive. Like somebody might say, well, that's callous. No, it's not. It's called reality. Okay? Now, if you are with somebody and you have a loss and you decide never to enjoy your life again, that's cool. You can do that. But you also have to understand that we only have so many breaths in this world to take, and as the time keeps ticking off, you're not doing yourself any good by being more and more sad for the rest of your life. That's not the way, at least the way I would mourn another human being. One of the most pleasurable things a human being can go through is that amazing honeymoon period when you meet somebody new who you connect with, who totally loves you, and you're getting into that thing where you're just peeling everything off like an onion and you're learning about them, they're learning about you, and that beautiful honeymoon period. I knew somewhere in my heart that was going to happen again. And I was happy for it. I wasn't ready to do it at that time, but I knew that my life was not going to suck, right? And if I was going to be a jerk and a sad, pathetic, bitter human being, that's the kind of people that I would be bringing into my life. And I chose not to do that. One of the great things about loss, and again, loss is forever, okay? Because people cannot be replaced. Living things, Lola cannot be replaced. Heidi can't be replaced. John can't be replaced. Loss will always be there, but grief does not have to be. I don't even believe in the word. The only reason why I'm saying the word is so people understand me, but I connect grief with love and opportunity. That's the way I do it. Here's something interesting. When I had to pull the plug for whatever comment you want to make on that, a guy came in from the funeral home about an hour later. I sat there with her body, and she was gone, obviously, for about an hour. It was just me and her. And you start to look, and you look, and I had to take a ring off, and you look, and there's a tan line, and I go, well, that tan line's for me because I have that ring. I bought that ring, and she put it on because she was connected to me, and that tells a story. I looked, and she had like little stretch marks on her stomach, which some women I think are ugly, but I looked at her and I thought, you put two beautiful kids into this world. It's amazingly beautiful, actually, And I thought, that there was a scar on her hand, and I thought, well, that must have hurt. Everything has a story. And I was like, it's so beautiful in a sense, The guy from the funeral home comes in, and he says, where's the body? And I said, you stop right there, you get out. He said, well, I'm doing my job. I said, no, you're not. She has a name. We're going to start to teach you right now, okay? She was a mother, okay? So you ask for her name, and I'll allow you back in. She comes in, and my mother, well, let me say this real quick. I love Mr. Rogers, too. He talks about in times of tragedy. He goes, look for the helpers. And I thought about that, and it goes, okay, so here's a helper. Here's something that's great when you have a loss. I pushed that guy away, and my mother helped put my wife in the body bag with me. Mothers do a lot of things. Typically, they don't put their daughter-in-law in a body bag. By the way, it's not a real bag. It's kind of like you fold it over, and in the end, they put the thing over the head. And I wheeled her out myself because that's what I do. So just in case somebody's thinking, oh, this guy, man, he recovered too fast. You know, he's got no feelings. No, I do my job. And that's what I did. I wheeled her out, I picked her up, and I put her in the mortuary van myself. And then I did everything else that Heidi saw at the funeral. I did the eulogy and all these things. But there's a lot of good. Like hundreds of people showed up to the funeral that I didn't even know were my friends. It was amazing. It was great. My mother, amazing. My father, who has always had difficulty ever expressing any emotion, after the eulogy, he came over to me and he said, you know, every man's going to hate you. And I went, what are you talking about? And he said, I don't think any man alive can live up to you. You're such a good man. And I thought, if this is what it took for my father to open up, you know, so it's amazing some of the great things that can happen. We don't have a lot of time, but the thing I'll add too is if you're going through a tough time, I would say this: you can worry about the hole you're in, or you could worry about the goal that you want to get to. I, for myself, speaking for myself, I don't want to live a horrible, dysfunctional, drug-addicted life because I lost somebody. Do you make that person happy by living a horrible life? No. Your job is to stand up and to live the best life possible, and I think that's really the goal. You don't honor the people who died by living a horrible, depressed life. And so I'll tell Heidi now, if I died today, I'll give you a couple of weeks. Don't take a date to the funeral. But very quick after that, I will haunt you for the rest of your life. I want you to live, love, laugh. If you still like sex, I want you to have sex with somebody else. You need to. I want you to get dogs. I want you to do everything possible to have a good life. And if you don't and you're depressed, I will haunt you. I will push you out of the door. I will do whatever I have to do as a ghost to make you live a good life. Living sad is no way to honor those who died before us. And that's really what I have to say. I could talk about this forever. By the way, this whole show and the book and everything else is all due to that one day. And me being a therapist today all has to do with that. So what good has come from it? So much I can't even talk about. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. Is that enough time for today? I want everybody to say hi to Lola one more time.
She goes,
I
snoozing.
love this girl.
She goes, I'm snoozing.
Okay then. So this has been the Rise Above Show. I am Joe Perroni.
I'm Heidi Mancini.
And this is Lola the Pug, and you're going to watch her play the drums now.